Salute, peace and power, peace and power. I thank the universal truth and the absolute laws of nature for guiding me, protecting me, and giving me the strength to endure the imperfect. I shall attack with vigor, making progressive moves. The divine mind knows, the divine mind shows. All things work in divine order. Excuse me. All things work in divine order. All things work in divine order. Peace and power to the people of the struggle. Salute, salute. How you do as you come on in. Please know that this is a safe space. Know that this is a space for learning and getting learned up. Know that this is a space for educating and being educated. Know that this is a space of love. Know that this is your space. This is a space for conversation, for dialogue, for questions, comments, answers, and concerns. Please know that this is a space where we engage in theory, put it into practice, all on our true path towards liberation. As my classroom assistants come on in, please put all contact information in the chat for the duration of class. Please put all funding information in the chat for the duration of class. If you or anybody you know is in need of anger management services, please contact me for an assessment as soon as possible. Please, don't wait until you on the corner somewhere getting tased. Don't wait till you up in your, what do you call those spots? What do you call HR? Don't wait till you in human resources and they giving you that pink slip. Don't do that. Don't wait until your kids are screaming at you, I hate you, because you done beat them because they asked for a little bit more rice because you mad. No, 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 no. Book yourself an assessment and get your shit together, okay? If you or anybody you know is in need of domestic violence intervention, or you believe that domestic violence or intimate partner abuse is what you're witnessing, please book an assessment. Learn, and I'm saying this with all firmness, please learn the warning signs, what you need to be alerted to. I'm telling you, sometimes it comes from nowhere, sometimes it's been there. But learn the signs so you can get strategies to not only survive, but thrive in that situation. Okay? What's good, y'all? Real quick, impromptu book club, because I want to see who's been reading. I want to see who's been on their JO. I want to see who could pass a quiz. Okay? Yeah. Let's see what it is. And I know y'all tired of what's going on, because I'm tired of what's going on. It seems that social media is cluttered with bullshit. Everybody's a goddamn chuckle puss. Everything is funny. Everybody's ass is in the air, right? Or it's a whole bunch of false narratives running around and nobody seems to know nothing about a bunch of shit, okay? So we're going to keep our space intelligent. We're going to keep our space geared in a certain way, okay? But let's see who's up in the spotty spot. I know we in the middle of a storm here. It's windy here, but listen, I got to get on when I can get on and do what I can do when I can do it. Because again, man, everybody got a little struggle. You dig what I'm saying? And everybody seems to be needing my time somewhere. Okay? Come on, what's going on with this? Why I'm looking a little crooked? Let me fix this so y'all don't look drunk to me and I don't look drunk to y'all. Let's see. Lovely lady, I see you up in here. Tiara T. Green in the spot. What's going on, T? How you? Let me get this right. Philip, boom. Okay. Drew, salute. 55, Drew. First 55 of the afternoon. Merklo in the spotty spot. Black Leaf, thank you. A. Ward. What up, A. Ward? What's going on? Zone 864 TV with the books up in the spot. Rugi Hauser. Okay, you got off the road. Good. I'm glad you got off the road safe. Man, what's going on with this thing here? Let me find out this tripod is drunk. Maxwell Trucking LLC seem to be in a spotty spot more and more. Don't miss a class. That Maxwell must be on his device in the truck 24 hours. Okay, Kai, I see you. I'm alone in the spot. What up? Sean Jenkins. Cool K Kang always in effect. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, Hakim. What's going on, Todd? I see you. Louis Skaggs, what's going on, Vitamin Vision? Yes, George Johnson. Oh, 55, George. You can hope all you want, but them double nickels is coming. Hey, Charles, Luke, peace and power, what's going on, Mark? P. Miller, 55. Luke, Kenny Mack, what's going on? Quiet Storm, you at work but you in class today? Okay, Quiet Storm, don't get fired. I keep telling y'all, don't get fired messing with Mr. Charlie. He don't like me and I don't like him. So I get loud when I know y'all ain't work. Yeah. Damn, Mr. Charlie. But let's get to it, y'all. Boom. Not much time. I got to hit these pots in a timely fashion. Today is Monday. So I got to do what I got to do. You dig? But it's book club. All God's Children. The Willie Bosket story. If you aren't up on what we doing and you new to class, you know when we say book club, we are not the average book club. Okay? We actually get engaged in our book. We digest our book. We read it once, we read it 2 or 3 times and digest it and become it. So Willie Bosket is a young man who was one of the first adolescents charged as an adult in New York State. Yes, in the New York State criminal justice system. And as such, he was such a violent inmate and caught so many new charges that he is now serving life in solitary confinement in his own special jail, separate from everyone else. And we're reading this story, and the story goes back into the Bosket family name and how violent the history is with this family. It's a timepiece. It's an excellent read. And we read this thing together, just like all our other books, from Asada to Wretched of the Earth, right? To everything else that we intake and what we're going to continue to do, throughout our time. Okay, so this is, we're still on first chapter, matter of fact. We're on what page? Who was reading? Who knows what page we on? Intellectual soapbox, what's going on? Who knows? Because this is a very impromptu. Let's see who was reading and who in class. I'm telling you, my classroom assistants better know. They better know. Rahim Allah, peace, peace, peace. Peace, Almighty, what's good? What up, Atlanta? Coach? 55 for you, Coach. Care if you in Atlanta or Tennessee or Tupelo. You miss a class, you get 55, coach. Yeah. 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 So I hope them people in Atlanta help you with them double nickels. Okay? Uh-oh. Tierra. Ooh, wee. We are on page 7 because I ain't got time to be messing with y'all. I'm telling you, though. I'm telling you, you're going to get quizzes. And if you fail, you're going to get a 45 and get kicked out of class. Yeah. So you better be paying attention. Because all our books, all our reading materials, shit, it's required reading for going through what we going through here. Okay? Useful information. So let's get to it. Page 7, Bloody Edgefield is the chapter. Okay? The Clouds Creek Massacre. Remember we talked about the massacre, right? And the era of violence in the backcountry from 1760 to the 1780s left an unhappy stamp on the early settlers. The physical destruction alone was awful. Edgefield was a wasteland. A minister who had fled another heavily fought over district along the coast and returned at the end of the war found that, quote unquote, all was desolation. Every field, every plantation, he wrote, showed marks of ruin and devastation. Not a person was to be met with in the roads. Society itself, he thought, seems to be at an end. Robberies and murders were often committed on the public roads. The people that remain have been pillaged, and plundered. A dark melancholy gloom appears everywhere, and the morals of the people are almost entirely extirpated. Okay? Done. Now we're speaking, as you can see, the time. This is the Revolutionary War. This is what's going on in South Carolina. Okay? This is their description of what the land looked like in Edgefield. And again, we're in the mix of that. Remember, revolution. We're not even talking Civil War spaces yet. Talking pre that. And that's where most people seem to concentrate history on when speaking on slavery and our conditions. And they miss the whole revolutionary era, the whole pre-revolutionary war era, which is very, very suspect to me because there was a lot going on. This wasn't just, something that was plotted from the rip. They stumbled upon a lot of different things. A lot of different things they stumbled on. And our enslavement and their laws and how their laws was written was part of that. Okay? Inland, in the backcountry, it was worse, particularly around Mount Willing. John A. Chapman, a historian who was born in Edgefield early in the 19th century, said, quote, unquote, I doubt whether any part of the state or of the United States suffered more from the strife between Whig and Tory than did this particular section of Edgefield. Now they're talking about the Whigs and they're talking about the Tories, right? Different groups, right? That were making an attempt to institutionalize and get the country in a different space. Warring parties, okay? The constant fighting, looting, and killing left many people with a numbed, often casual attitude toward violence. Soon, the county acquired a reputation as Bloody Edgefield because of its high number of murders. Judge Thomas J. Mackey, who ruled the South Carolina Circuit, presiding over the regular fall and spring sessions of Court Week in Edgefield, said facetiously, "I am going to hold court in Edgefield, and I expect a somewhat exciting turn as the fall shooting is about to start." Okay? Again, listen to what's going on with them. Okay, this is white folk on white folk. Enslavers on enslavers, colonizers on colonizers. So again, one aspect of the history of this land here. One aspect. Okay? This is where we at with it. Mason L. Parson Weems, an itinerant writer best known for the biography of George Washington that invented the pleasant fiction of Little George and the Cherry Tree, visited Edgefield to peddle his books. He was inspired to pen a sensational tract, The Devil in Petticoats, or God's Revenge Against Husband Killing. It told the tale of Becky Cotton, an Edgefield lady who murdered her 3 husbands and deposited their bodies in a pool near her house. "Oh, mercy," Parson Weems began. "What? Old Edgefield again? Another murder in Old Edgefield? Well, the Lord have mercy upon Old Edgefield. For sure, it must be pandemonium itself, a very district of devils." Okay? Now, this is the book, right, that this man was writing. Okay? This is how they wrote of each other. You haven't heard anything in this so far about who was doing the murdering. So we have to assume that he's talking about his own people, because you don't see any of those words that would describe us or others at that time. This is their story, their history of their time period in that space. Okay? Talking about this lady Becky now. See how long they've been naming themselves Becky? See how long they've been having Karens? Because she surely is a Karen if she already murdered 3 husbands. Okay? Cotton was the name of Becky's 3rd husband. She killed her first spouse by running a mattress needle through his heart. The second, she poisoned. Cotton's head she split with an axe. Put on trial in 1806, she came off clear, Weems discovered. Her tears and beauty, he said, conquered the judge and jury. One juror even became her 4th husband. In the end, though, Becky Cotton was killed by one of her brothers. By one of her brothers. Okay? This is where we at with it now. So I want you to get a clear picture of what's going on before they even began to speak heavily on the enslaved. So if they do that to their own, without a blink of an eye. You imagine what they were doing to those melanated folks, to those indigenous folks in the land around that time? Let's continue. Judge John Belton O'Neill, a distinguished South Carolina jurist, recalled attending his first court session at Edgefield not long after the Becky Cotton trial. The dockets were enormous, he said, with more than 200 cases, a huge number for an agricultural county with a total population of 24,000 whites and blacks. Edgefield's biggest town was Edgefield Courthouse, also known as Edgefield Village, with a mere 300 inhabitants. 300. But the court dockets, they caseload is way, way back. Stacked up. Stacked up. Okay? Determining crime rates in antebellum South Carolina is necessarily inexact. Contemporary judges, juries, and sheriffs had limited interest in keeping statistics. Statistics. It's too many, right? Like it's too many YouTube channels to watch. It's a cluster of bull, right? So it kind of makes people overwhelmed and lazy until you find that one jewel that keeps you engaged, right? One that you want to continue to support. This is what happens, right? Do you hear? Do you hear how these divine evils move? So you can stop believing in the false narratives of who we are, what we were doing. You see how beastly they are? This is them talking about them. Them talking about them. And the author, yeah, is Europe. This is what it is. So it's history, documented, right? Okay, come on. One careful, hold on, let's go. Sheriffs had limited interest in keeping statistics, but some rough estimates can be made. One careful study of judicial records for the period from 1800 to 1860 found that the murder rate in South Carolina, an overwhelmingly rural agrarian area, was 4 times higher than that in Massachusetts, then the most urban industrial state. This goes against a central theorem of modern criminology, which predicts higher homicide rates in densely populated urban regions, where crowding and anonymity break down traditional social ties and values. In South Carolina, prosecutions for all crimes of violence, including assault and rape as well as murder, made up almost 60% of the court cases, but only 18% in Massachusetts, where the most common criminal acts were theft and public drunkenness. The records also show that the vast majority of people put on trial for violent crimes in antebellum South Carolina were whites. The slaves were thought to be a gentle people. So this is the first time we hear that. This is the first time that they speaking slaves, okay? The records in the courts, which were kept by their own people, and they're telling you how violent it was in South Carolina, During this period, still 1800 to 1860, still prior, pre-Civil War, these folks were out of control. So do you know, can you imagine what it took for them and from them to act violently in order to establish the systems of chattel slavery? Do you know how violent they had to be in order to break a people, to get them to fully submit? You see what's going on in Gaza, right? In order to break the will of the people, you had to be extra violent. You had to be in a space where it's consistently buck breaking and raping and torturing. It is what it is. So when you're growing up in those conditions, we can only imagine, because there was no science of the brain to that degree back then. So we're being raised by psychopaths, psychotic individuals, murderous individuals. So if it makes sense now, when we see teens grow up in what they want to deem urban environments, gang-infested environments, and the kids are learning from the culture and the music, who do you place blame on? You always say, oh, it must be these rappers, or it's the music executives for pushing it out there. So in a space outside of the industry, and we're dealing with it from society on a whole, who do the people get this behavior from? The trauma that is suffered, right? The lack of nurturing on a society. Where does that come from? It don't come from us. So we respond to it. Nicole Simmons, salute, much appreciated for the green screen. Do you understand that? Again, the records also show that the vast majority of people put on trial for violent crimes in antebellum South Carolina were whites. The slaves were thought to be a gentle people. The prevalence of murder in Edgefield in the mid-19th century can be cruelly measured through the county coroner's reports of juries of inquest. From 1844 to 1858, the Edgefield coroners officially recorded 65 murders. That is probably an undercount, since a number of deaths were attributed to natural causes or quote-unquote acts of God, that by a less charitable interpretation might have been the result of deliberate violence, such as a person who drowned after being beaten. Nevertheless, that works out to an annual rate of 18 murders per 100,000 inhabitants. In 1992, according to FBI's Uniform Crime Reports, only one state in the entire country, Louisiana, approached this figure with a homicide rate of 17.4 per 100,000. Do you understand that? So we talking back then, they had 18, and in 92, Louisiana had 17.4 in a space where we're talking 1858, 1992. So we know the technology was much different in 1992. We know the count was more precise. We know also that guns and automatic weapons was already there in 92, and you still, within the whole country, we still didn't match what was going on pre-Civil War in South Carolina. Do This is what we're talking about now. So you could imagine, again, what it was like when you're telling folks they cannot read. You understand? Where you are demanding that people bow down and work cotton fields, work different plants. All of this is going on now. None of this we were able to initiate. That's not on us. This is something that we live through, something that we survive through. Okay? Let's go on. These figures for antebellum Edgefield might be dismissed as an anomaly given the country's small size. Remember, it wasn't even 50 states. Okay? But Edgefield was part of the South. And every statistical measure in the years that have followed has shown that the South, not the Wild West, as popularly believed, was the most violent region in the United States. H.V. Redfield, a correspondent for the Cincinnati Commercial, stationed in the South after the Civil War, was so struck by the frequency of murder there that he put together the first quantitative study on the subject in 1880, using figures gleaned from local newspaper reports. By his calculations, in 1878, the three southern states of South Carolina, Kentucky, and Texas, which was then settled mostly by Southerners, numbered between 12.2 and 28.8 murders per 100,000 citizens. In urban Massachusetts that year, the rate was only 1.4. Vermont and New Hampshire and two northern states that were predominantly agricultural, like most of the South, recorded only a single murder between them in 1878, Redfield pointed out. South Carolina had 128. Even New York City averaged only 3 to 7 homicides per 100,000 throughout the 19th century. Have we not here two civilizations? Redfield asked. He was the first of a series of writers and scholars to suggest that the South had produced a culture of violence. This is the South. This is the South. From which many of our people migrated from, ran from. I have South Carolina roots on my mother's side, Georgetown. Okay? This is what we're talking about. Where did this come from? I always tell y'all, East New York, Brooklyn is a different beast. And I always try to figure out why. And then I started doing the research and started to read different books, how East New York became a ghetto and different nationalities and things like that. And then when you find out that Murder, Inc., the original Murder, Inc. from the Italian mafia, right? The Jewish mafias and things like that originated right in East New York. All along the Belt Parkway, when back in these days was where the Long Island farmers would bring their produce in order to go through downtown, right? They come through, come around, come up through the Belt, around through Queens and come through. And East New York is the first base in Brooklyn that they hit to get downtown Brooklyn to eventually get across the bridge and hit the Lower East Side and the docks and all that. Well, there's bodies all through East New York for a century and a half. And then in the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, shit, the 60s and the 70s, the Italian mafia used to dump bodies all through there. The violence in East New York has always been way up. And that has an effect on the communities and people from those communities. This is why he's going so far back in this particular book to see the connection of the Bosket name. As I told you, all the street names in East New York, and the majority of them throughout Brooklyn and Queens, are of people who owned plantations. People who owned plantations, not nice people. So you, when walking on these blocks, that's what you're walking on when they named it that. That is a spiritual connection to the land. Everybody who is not caught up into a Eurocentric way of thinking and a Eurocentric belief systems will tell you that the land, there's a connection to it. It's why the Palestinians is fighting so hard. It's why they fight so hard in the continent, because the land, there's a connection there. So what do you think about people, or what do you think is going to happen to the people who are born and raised up on that land? Right? They're going to pick up that energy. When they move in that space and around that space, they're going to move in a manner of which they have to defend themselves or assert themselves in a certain way in order not to become victims. So when you're in it, and you're in it at the highest levels, you don't even understand how violent you are. This is what we talk about. Yes, salute. Salute, salute. Johnny, what's going on? Yes. Yes. That is why they're here. This is why we're speaking on this. The statistical differences persisted. In 1933, the year the federal government first established homicide data for the entire country, the 10 states with the highest murder rates were all southern or border states that had been involved in the Confederacy, from Virginia to Texas. South Carolina's homicide rate was almost 4 times the national average. Four times. Over the years, many theories have been advanced for the South's propensity for violence. One is fanciful, that the region's hot climate produced hot tempers. Others offer what may be parts of the explanation. At least since Frederick Law Olmsted journeyed through the South in the 1850s and penned his 3-volume work, The Cotton Kingdom, writers have pointed to the persistence of frontier conditions in the South. The frontier bred lawlessness, according to this thesis. The Southern plantation agriculture, with its wildly scattered settlements and paucity of roads, bridges, and schools, remained a frontier until after the Civil War. Edgefield, with its early history of backcountry fighting, seems to support the theory. But not all parts of the South shared this gory military history, and recent studies of the American West contradict the stereotypes of pervasive violence in cattle towns there. In fact, the bloodshed that erupted on the western frontier may have been Southern violence brought in via Texas. So when we speaking, and I keep telling people that every time somebody questions me about, yo, when you gonna leave New York? Who? Not me, said the little black man. Me? No, no, no. No, no, no. I need my concrete jungle. I need my projects. I need to get in and out when I need to get in and out. I'm not with no back country, no backwoods, no long ass roads and all that. Nah. No thank you. No thank you. I'm very comfortable right here with the PJs and the police and the ambulances and the rats and all the crunch monsters and their crack pipes and all. I'm good. I'm good. I can see all that. Not gonna stick me nowhere. Nah, I'm good. I'm good. Okay, I'm good. Trust me, I'm good. Not going anywhere. And every time I have to go through to visit, to go through and to see a client or something in the South, yeah, I'm on edge. I'm not going to sit here in front of you. I don't like it. I don't like the open road. I don't like their laws. I don't like none of that shit. I don't. Never did. Love the people. Love my people. But my people don't have control over the institutions that keep us safe and secure. Nah. I'm all right. I'm all right. Right here. You understand? An assessment, please hit me on Instagram or at any of my other contacts, and we can get an assessment in through PayPal or Green Screen, right? Cash App or Western Union. I just did some business in Canada. I didn't know that they dollar exchange was so deep. It took a lot from me. I was like, oh, okay, y'all wilding over here across the border. You dig? But this is where we at with it, right? Another contributor to Southern bellicosity was the heavy influx of Scot-Irish among the region's settlers. The immigrants shocked the good Quakers of Pennsylvania, where they first arrived in the New World. Benjamin Franklin chastised them for being white savages. Their way of life was an outgrowth of 7 centuries of fighting between the kings of England and Scotland over the borderlands they inhabited. They had grown injured to their towns, they had grown inured to their towns being sacked and burned and their kinsmen tortured to death. Many had been forcibly resettled in Ireland. When they came to America, they brought with them a penchant for family feuds, a love of whiskey, and a warrior ethic that demanded vengeance. Their prevailing principle, lex talliens, the rule of retaliation, helps explain the Clouds Creek Massacre and the bloodiness of the fighting in the South Carolina backcountry from 1760 to 1785. Okay? This is the transition. This is what people want to, or I believe they're just not reading the right books. They're not going into the spaces. I tell you, when we saying that we're woke and that we're conscious and that we're aware, excuse me, and that we're in a space where we have to find ourselves by knowing our enemy and their rules of engagement and to what extent that they're willing to go to make sure that everything remains the same. We have to read books by European authors. We got to read Whitey's joints so you can get a different understanding when you're looking at them, when your lens is here. You like, yo, hold up. Those people ain't giving up no damn reparations. Those people not giving up no position. Those people, they don't hear when you beg, when you plead, when you ask, when you follow their own, excuse me, their own laws that they establish. How you going to tell them what their laws mean to them? They don't understand that because they're warmongers. They understand bloodshed, pressure. Okay? That's it. So I always question somebody's intelligence when they talk about they know what they're doing. They know whitey, or they have rights and beliefs. When you're dealing with people to this degree and of this degree. Let's go on. One of their favorite sports was a savage form of wrestling or wrestling, which evolved in Virginia into rough and tumble, and in South Carolina into knock down and drag out. An Irish traveler, Thomas Ashe, described a fight between a Virginian and a Kentuckian. The contestants were asked if they wanted to, quote unquote, fight fair or quote unquote, rough and tumble. When they replied rough and tumble, the crowd roared in approval. The Virginian began by pitching himself into the bosom of his opponent, sinking his sharpened fingernails into the Kentuckian's head. The Virginian never lost his hold, fixing his claws into his hairs and his thumbs on his eyes, and ripped his opponent's eyes from their sockets. Even after the eyes were gouged out, the fight continued. The Virginian sunk his teeth into the Kentuckian's nose and bit it in two pieces. He then tore off the Kentuckian's ears. Finally, the Kentuckian, deprived of eyes, ears, and nose, gave in. The victor, though maimed and bloodied himself, was carried around the grounds by the crowd. Okay? And you mean to tell me this is how they get down for sport? And this isn't even the thick. This isn't even the apex of chattel slavery? Huh? The hell you think they did to you? To your great-great-grandfather, your great-great-grandmama, your great-great-great-great. You serious? In an effort to halt this pastime, South Carolina in 1786 made any defendant found guilty of premeditated mayhem subject to the death penalty. Mayhem was defined as, y'all with me? Y'all with me? I'm going through a little freeze here. I know they tried. Give me red hearts if y'all with me. Okay, cells, that's what I'm talking about. Let me get back. Okay. Mayhem was defined as violently depriving another person of a member of his body, excepting the ears and nose. The ears and nose were excluded because their loss only disfigured the victim. Despite the severity of the law, right, gouging flourished. Judge Adonis Burke, who worked the Edgefield court, was appalled by the number of one-eyed men in his courtroom. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back. In an effort to halt this pastime, South Carolina in 1786 made any defendant found guilty of premeditated mayhem subject to the death penalty. Death penalty. If you break this law. Mayhem was defined as violently depriving another person of a member of his body, excepting the ears and the nose. So they say you can do the ears and the nose. You can do that. However, the ears and the nose were excluded because their loss only disfigured the victim. So you can do that. You can bite a nose off. You can rip a dude's ear off. Yeah, that's good money. You can do all that. Leave the rest of the people alone. You can disfigure them. You can have a dude running around with half a nose. You can have a dude running around with no ears. Okay? That's good money. But you'll get the death penalty if you found guilty of gouging eyes and doing anything else. But he said, despite that, despite the severity of the law, gouging flourished. They still was doing it. Okay? Judge Burke, who worked the Edgefield Circuit, was applauded by the number of one-eyed men in his courtroom. Before God, gentlemen of the jury, I never saw such a thing before in the world, he once exclaimed. There is a plaintiff with an eye out, a juror with an eye out, and two witnesses with an eye out. What a state of society you must have in this part of the country. Saying, what the fuck is wrong with y'all in South Carolina? What the fuck is going on? This is what he said. Okay? Behind this brutality lay an ethic of primal honor, brought with the Scot-Irish to the New World. This is the ethics now, okay? It had its roots in the blood feuds between families and clans dating to the Middle Ages. Above all, honor meant reputation. A man's worth resided in the opinion of others. Honor also meant valor. A man had to be prepared to fight to defend his honor if challenged or insulted. This concern with honor produced rough and tumble, and the abundance of assaults and murders among the proletariat in the back country. That's how you give it up. That's how they was giving up. That's how they got down. Okay? Yes, Raheem, the Fighting Irishman. You understand? So again, they call it honor. And what we adopted from watching that behavior from them, we wanted respect because they did not respect us. Remember, 3/5 of a man is what they said legally in our spaces. So you get to a point where you begin to redefine yourself and you start to say, no, I'm a man. I need to be what? respect it. You don't honor us because your judges have the honor. You don't like us, so you don't love us because you hang us, you lynch us, you burn us. But we want respect. Man, the word equality and all that old funny shit. So respect, you can lose your life for, especially when we fighting amongst each other. You dig? So again, we have to understand where these behaviors come from. Which is why I always say, check your anger. Because when your kids are watching and you only show violence unnecessarily through your anger, when that's your communication device, your kids grow up and that's what happens. That's what they utilize. Okay? Like I said, we're not getting rid of anger. We're not getting rid of rage because we rightfully should be enraged by what we see, by what we live through, by what we witness, right? We just seen an 11-year-old boy shot in the chest by police and no indictment from the grand jury. That's triggering. That's enraging. You understand? But you must be able to control it so you know when to rage and when to let it go in a space that's going to be conducive towards our liberation. Okay? So know what you are sitting through when you're here in this space here. No contradictions here. Oh yeah, because we're going to have to get down with the get down. And we're going to have to smash out some of our own melanated folks. That's beyond a question of a doubt. But how you do it, when and why you do it, is what has to be taught. And it can only be taught from an honest group, an honest class, people who have a genuine love for each other, because liberation and revolution is love inspired. The only thing we hate is our enemies. You dig? So don't believe in me. Believe in my belief in you. I got moves to make. I mean, come on now. I keep telling you, fund the war effort so we can continuously be engaged. And look, I always say, don't worry about the numbers. Worry about the engagement. Only 45 in class today. But watch when I talk about Cardi B and her behind later on, we have about 250 in the building. Again, it's only a select few that are going to be raised to be warriors. Don't worry about everybody else. Worry about you. Okay? I love my people. All peace and power to the people of the struggle. Salute, salute, salute. Salute, salute, salute. Salute, salute, salute. Get your sessions in. Get your assessments in. It's very important to know who you are and what makes you tick. Okay? Very important. Very important. All right? And Dustfro 517, I seen you coming your ass late. Excuse me. I seen you come in with your late ass. 55, because you ain't been here. Yeah. 55. Yeah. Ain't no sneaking in. Giving 55s on my way out the door. 55. 55.